As the pandemic lingers on and other natural disasters are reported like nearly every day, and the political tension around the world doesn't seem to be going anywhere, at least anytime soon, I've noticed that people are continuing to report that they feel fear and even despair about their lives and about their futures. And sometimes when we think about what's going on in our world, even if our lives are good, we can easily go to a place of despair when we see the suffering that others are enduring. But here's the truth. Each of us is more powerful than we know, and our individual actions affect every corner of creation. I'm Deborah Poneman, founder of Yes to Success, where we share knowledge and tools for you to live your ultimate life. And I want to tell you the story of something that happened to me when I was just 13 years old. So I was 13, I was in the 8th grade, and I was one of the cool girls. I mean, I wasn't a mean girl. I was never a mean girl, but I was in fact the president of a club that every girl in the 8th grade would just die to be a member of. And I remember one day we were out on the playground at East Prairie School, and we were sitting on a picnic bench. It was kind of where the club members hung out. And two of the girls brought another girl over to the picnic bench. And this is a girl who was not considered to be that cool. And these two girls brought her over and they said to her, "We have something to tell you." And she, said, "What is it?" And they said, "Well, we've decided to invite you to be in our club." Well, you would have thought that we had given her a gold brick. I mean, her eyes just lit up like two stars. And then those two girls said, "Oh, come on, we're just kidding. We would never let you be in our club." And I remember sitting there in complete shock. But not only was I in complete shock, I had the first spiritual experience of my young life. When the shock hit my heart, I saw this energy go out of the girl. We'll call her name, let's say her name was Lori. Okay, I saw this energy go out of this heartbroken girl, and I saw her pain radiate from her. It actually came from her heart chakra, and it radiated out and it reverberated into every corner of the universe. I saw it with my own inner eye. It was like a matrix, and I saw the whole world that was part of this matrix, and every bit of the world screamed in pain along with her. And then I also saw that pain go out from her and into those two girls who caused her the pain. And I saw it enter their bodies and shrink their subtle bodies. And it was quite a kind of a disconcerting experience for a little 13-year-old girl who had never had anything like that happen in her life. But I also remember that at that moment, I made the commitment that I would never again do anything to harm anyone or anything in creation, because I saw the repercussions. Have I been perfect? No, not by a long shot. Do I forgive myself when I'm not perfect? Yes, because there's no reason to, as my friend, the great teacher Byron Katie says, there's no reason to put pain on pain. So what I do, just by the way, is I put my hand on my heart and I breathe into my heart chakra. Just by putting your hand on your heart, it stimulates the oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone. And then I say, "I love you, I forgive you, and you're doing the best you can." But I'll never forget that moment. And I know that when we do something that hurts one other individual, it's not just that individual that it's hurting. And I also know how it comes back to you. But if you really want to have an impact on the world, you may also want to go and ask forgiveness from that person. I mean, every time you scream at your kids or you're nasty to your neighbor because she won't cut the trees that are on your side of the fence, or you lay on the horn when someone cuts you off, or even when you roll your eyes behind someone's back, it harms all of creation. But you can undo that harm, and you can bring in an exponential amount of grace-filled light by going back and saying, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry I said that. I think you're a wonderful neighbor, and I'm so lucky to live next door to you. I think I just overreacted because I have a stress about raking leaves since I had to do it as a child. You can always go back and make things right, not only for you, but for all of creation. And I know that many of you are aware of the work of Masaru Emoto, the man who did the work with the messages from water. And his research absolutely confirmed the impact of our words on all of creation. If you're not familiar with the work, Dr. Masaru Emoto was a renowned Japanese scientist who provided us with actual factual evidence that human thoughts, words, and even feelings affect the world around us. His research was done on how vibration affects the molecular structure of water. He originally took water from various sources, and then he froze it, and he photographed the crystals using high-speed photography. And his first photos were of spring water way up in the mountains outside of Seijo, Japan. And they were just absolutely beautiful crystal, like breathtaking photographs. And then he took photos of that same river after it had flowed through an industrial area of Seijo, and the pictures were all ugly and distorted. You couldn't even see a crystal formation after the water became so polluted. Then he furthered his research when he discovered that water actually responded to outside stimuli like music. So in the next phase of his research, he took a neutral source of water and played various music pieces. And he froze the water and he photographed the crystals. And what he found was that when he played like Bach or Mozart, the crystals were just breathtakingly beautiful, these crystalline patterns. But when he played heavy metal, they were all distorted with no discernible crystal structure. But probably the most magnificent research that really illustrates what we're talking about here came from when Emoto conducted research where these words were spoken by Japanese school children to the water. And when the children said, I love you to the water, and the water was frozen, the patterns again, they were breathtakingly beautiful. And when they said things like, I hate you, I want to kill you to the water, well, you wouldn't even want to look at the photos because the negative energy coming from the photographs was so very intense. And perhaps even more profound was some research that Dr. Emoto did where he just typed words from a word processor and he put energy into the words, and then he taped the pieces of paper with these words written on them or typed on them around beakers of water, froze the crystals overnight, and in the morning photographed them. And on the beaker that he wrote, do it, because he had written do it like an intense command, the water was all distorted. And on the beaker that he wrote, let's do it, with the energy of cooperation and doing it together. When the added energy was put into the words and the words were taped on the beaker, again, the crystals were beautiful. So since over 70% of our bodies and the body of our Mother Earth are made up of water, every word we speak, the music we play, even the words we type have a concrete effect on ourselves, on the recipient, and on the entire planet as a whole. I mean, do you realize that if you speak harsh words and the person doesn't even physically hear you, it still affects 70% of that person's body and yours? So if we want to contribute to a world that is at peace, we need to be quicker to say words of praise, slower to say words that criticize, and we need to say things like, can you please hand me those papers, and not get me those papers. And even if we need to say no, we say no with a yes attitude. And if you ever doubt that you're making a difference in the world, just remember, that everything is energy. And as I discovered when I was 13 years old, we are all connected by the matrix. And you're more powerful than you can even imagine. So thank you for listening. I send my love to you, and I'll see you next time.